German Shepherd K9 cried out when his owner closed a suitcase and left. A K9 German Shepherd trained to be fearless on the front lines, reduced to a heartbreaking cry the moment his owner closed the suitcase and walked away. What could make a dog that faced danger without flinching break down in such a raw and emotional way? This is not just a story about loyalty. It's a story about what happens when duty, love, and sacrifice collide in the most unexpected way. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring more inspiring stories like this to you. What you are about to hear will take you deep into the unbreakable bond between a man and his canine partner. A bond tested by separation, danger, and the kind of courage that doesn't always come from the battlefield. Stay with us until the very end, because what unfolds after that cry will leave you breathless and change the way you see loyalty forever. The house was unusually quiet that morning, except for the sound of the suitcase wheels rolling across the hardwood floor. Michael Hayes, a decorated police officer in his late 30s, moved with a heavy heart as he packed the last of his belongings. Every step felt slower, heavier, as if the weight of the decision he had made pressed down on him more than the packed bags themselves. By the door sat Max, his loyal German Shepherd K9 partner, ears perked and eyes following every motion. Max wasn't just a dog. He was Michael's shadow. They had served together for 6 years, facing dangerous drug raids, armed standoffs, and long nights patrolling the streets. They had saved each other more times than either could count. To the outside world, Max was a highly trained K9, disciplined and tough. But to Michael, he was family. That morning, though, Max sensed something different. The scent of departure hung in the air. Michael's uniform wasn't draped across the chair like usual. Instead, a civilian jacket lay folded neatly on the couch. A stack of papers sat beside the suitcase, the kind Max had learned to associate with change, retirement forms. Michael knelt in front of Max, placing both hands on the dog's strong shoulders. "You've given me everything, buddy," he whispered, his voice breaking slightly. "But this next part, you can't follow me." Max tilted his head, eyes filled with a mix of confusion and concern. His tail swished slowly against the floor, uncertain whether this was just another trip or something far more permanent. Michael closed the suitcase with a firm snap, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence of the room. That was the moment Max cried out. It wasn't a bark of warning or the sharp growl of a protector. It was a deep, guttural sound of anguish, a cry that seemed almost human. Michael froze, the handle of the suitcase still in his hand, his chest tightening as if a vice had clamped around his ribs. The cry cut through him. Max had never done that before. He had faced down criminals, endured storms, even been injured in the line of duty, but he had never cried. That sound wasn't about fear or pain. It was about loss. Max knew. He knew Michael was leaving. Michael swallowed hard, blinking back tears he didn't want to admit were forming. "Don't do this to me, Max," he murmured, crouching down again and burying his face in the dog's thick fur. "You'll be okay. You'll be with a good family. They'll take care of you. You'll finally get the chance to just be a dog." But Max didn't care about being just a dog. His entire world revolved around Michael. And in that moment, with the suitcase by the door and the silence hanging heavy between them, Max pressed his head against Michael's chest, refusing to let go. Outside, the rumble of a car pulling into the driveway broke the fragile stillness. Michael's sister, Anna, had come to take him to the airport. She had agreed to look after Max temporarily, though deep down, Michael knew she wasn't sure she could handle him long-term. Max was trained for action, not for the quiet life of a suburban backyard. Anna stepped inside, her eyes falling on the scene. Her brother crouched on the floor, clutching the dog like a lifeline. She hesitated, then said softly, "Mike, it's time." Michael nodded, though his body didn't move. He kissed the top of Max's head, then stood slowly, forcing himself to pick up the suitcase again. Max followed instantly, staying close to his side, nails clicking against the floor, as if he could anchor Michael in place. At the door, Michael paused. His hand rested on the handle, his mind screaming at him to turn back, to drop everything and stay. But he couldn't. The department had offered him a consulting position overseas, a chance to build training programs for K-9 units in conflict zones. It was dangerous, yes, but it was also the opportunity of a lifetime. The problem was Max couldn't go. "Be strong, Max," Michael whispered, his voice barely audible. He reached for the knob, but before he could turn it, Max let out another cry. Louder this time, more desperate. His body pressed against Michael's leg, blocking the way, his amber eyes shimmering with something that looked painfully close to tears. Michael's throat tightened. His heart pounded in his chest. He bent down one last time, holding Max's face between his hands. "I'll come back for you," he promised. "No matter what happens, I'll come back." As he stepped out into the crisp morning air, Anna gently tugged Max back, trying to soothe him. But Max resisted, lunging forward, his leash taut as he tried to follow Michael down the path. The sound of his cries echoed across the driveway, raw and haunting. Neighbors peeked through their windows, startled by the mournful wail of a dog that had never known how to beg, until now. Michael didn't turn back. He couldn't. If he saw Max's face one more time, he knew he wouldn't have the strength to leave. The suitcase felt heavier with every step, but not because of what it carried. It was heavy with guilt, with love, with the crushing weight of breaking a bond that had defined his life for 6 years. As the car door closed and the engine started, Max's cries grew louder, his paws scraping against the pavement as if he could claw his way to Michael. Anna held him tight, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "He'll come back, Max. He'll come back." But Max didn't understand promises. All he understood was that the man he had given his heart to was walking away. And for the first time in his life, Max didn't know if his loyalty would be enough to bring him back. And as the car disappeared down the street, Max sat at the edge of the driveway, chest heaving, eyes fixed on the horizon. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just waited. Because deep inside, despite the pain, Max believed one thing with all his heart. His story with Michael wasn't over yet. The days after Michael's departure passed slowly, stretching into an emptiness that weighed heavily on Max. The once disciplined German Shepherd K9 now spent most of his time near the front door, lie with his head pressed against the cool floorboards, waiting for the sound of familiar footsteps that never came. Every car that passed by the house made his ears twitch. Every slam of a door outside made his heart leap, only to fall again when it wasn't Michael. Anna did her best. She tried to feed him, walk him, even sit with him the way Michael used to, but Max's heart wasn't with her. He ate sparingly, more out of necessity than desire, and when she clipped the leash on for walks, his pace was slow, mechanical. Gone was the sharp focus of a dog on duty, the proud posture of a K9 partner. Instead, he walked with his head low, his body carrying grief the way humans carried heartbreak. One evening, Anna invited her neighbor Daniel, a retired officer, to the house. Daniel had worked with K9 units before and thought he might be able to help Max adjust. He stood in the living room, his rugged face softened by empathy as he watched the dog lying by the door, motionless except for the rise and fall of his chest. "He's grieving," Daniel said quietly. "They form bonds deeper than most people understand. It's not just handler and dog. It's family. He's waiting for Michael to come back." Anna folded her arms, concern etched across her face. But what if Michael doesn't? He's overseas in a dangerous place. What if... She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Daniel placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Then Max will have to learn a new purpose. But it won't be easy. He's not like other dogs. His entire life has been service and loyalty." That night, as Anna tried to sleep, Max's cries echoed through the house. It wasn't the sharp bark of alertness or the low growl of warning. It was that same guttural, heart-wrenching cry he had let out when Michael closed the suitcase. Anna covered her ears with her pillow, tears streaming down her face, tore between wanting to comfort him and knowing nothing she could do would fill the void he felt. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Michael sat in a dimly lit barracks in the Middle East, staring at a photo of Max he kept tucked inside his notebook. Around him, other officers laughed and traded stories, but his mind was elsewhere. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the cry. That sound haunted him more than any gunfire, more than any memory of a dangerous mission. He rubbed his temples and muttered under his breath, "Did I make a mistake leaving him?" His new role was critical. He was training international K-9 units to detect explosives, to track insurgents through the desert, to save lives in places where chaos reigned. But every successful training session, every proud handler thanking him, only deepened a hollow ache in his chest. None of these dogs were Max. Back in the States, a storm rolled across Anna's town one night. The thunder cracked, the rain lashed against the windows, and Max paced restlessly. He wasn't afraid of storms. He had faced gunfire, after all. But storms meant change, unease, danger. In the middle of the night, Anna found him by the door again, whining softly as if pleading with her to let him go. "Max, please," she said, crouching down and pulling him close. "He'll come back. I know he will." But her voice trembled with doubt. The next day, Daniel returned with an idea. "Maybe what Max needs is a job," he suggested. "He's not built for waiting around a house all day. What if we bring him to the precinct? Let him help out. It might give him something to hold on to." Anna hesitated. "Do you really think that will help? He's so attached to Michael." "Maybe," Daniel replied. "But if he keeps wasting away like this, it'll break him. At least give him a chance to feel useful again." So they tried. Daniel arranged for Max to visit the local police station. The moment Max stepped through the doors, his posture shifted slightly. His ears lifted, his step steadied. He sniffed the air, catching familiar scents of uniforms, leather, and the faint trace of gun oil. For a brief moment, his eyes lit with recognition. Memories of years spent by Michael's side in places just like this. But when he realized Michael wasn't there, the spark faded. He sat down heavily, refusing to move. Officers gathered around, offering kind words and pats. But Max's eyes drifted back toward the door every few seconds, as if hoping the next person who walked through would be the only one he wanted to see. Anna sighed, exchanging a look with Daniel. "He's not ready to let go." Daniel nodded grimly. "No, but he also can't keep living in limbo forever." That evening, as Anna drove Max home, she glanced at him in the rear-view mirror. His head rested against the car door, eyes distant, yet alert. She whispered softly, "He'll come back, Max. You just have to believe it." What Anna didn't know was that Michael, halfway across the world, was struggling with the same belief. Every letter he wrote but never sent, every call he wanted to make but couldn't, carried the same unspoken question. Would Max still be waiting for him when he returned? The distance between them was more than miles. It was time, it was longing, it was a test of a bond forged in fire but strained by absence. And though neither knew what the future held, both man and dog clung to the same fragile hope, that their story wasn't finished yet. But hope has a way of being tested, and soon both Michael and Max would face trials that would push their loyalty to its breaking point. Weeks turned into months, and for Max, time blurred into a cycle of waiting and longing. Each day began the same. He would sit by the window or the door, eyes fixed on the street, listening for the familiar footsteps that never came. Anna worried constantly. Though she cared for him deeply, she knew she was only a placeholder in his world. Max's heart belonged to Michael, and nothing she did could change that. One chilly evening, Anna received a phone call that changed everything. She answered with her usual warm tone, but her face drained of color as she listened. Michael's unit overseas had been caught in an ambush. The details were scarce, but the words injured and critical echoed in her mind. She hung up, clutching the phone tightly, tears welling in her eyes. Max, lying by the door, lifted his head instantly. He caught the shift in Anna's breathing, the tremor in her voice, the salt of her tears. He walked over, pressing his head into her lap. Anna sobbed, running her fingers through his fur. "Oh, Max," it's Michael. "Something's happened to him." Max didn't understand words, but he understood tone. And in that moment he knew. The air felt heavy, charged with fear. He whimpered softly, then let out a low, mournful cry. Across the ocean, Michael lay in a military hospital, bandages covering his side where shrapnel had torn through. He drifted in and out of consciousness, his thoughts clouded with pain. But through the haze, one image anchored him. Max. The last sound he had heard before leaving, the cry of his loyal companion, echoed in his mind like a beacon. Back home, Anna found herself facing a dilemma. With Michael injured, possibly unable to return for months, Or at all, what would become of Max? The department had strict policies about retired K9S. If a handler could no longer care for the dog, the animal might be reassigned or, in rare cases, placed in a shelter. Anna's stomach churned at the thought. Max deserved so much more than that. Daniel, the retired officer, visited again. He sat across from Anna at the kitchen table, while Max lay at their feet. If Michael doesn't come back, Daniel said carefully, we'll need to decide what's best for Max. He's too valuable, too well-trained, to just sit here wasting away. But I know one thing. He won't thrive without Michael. Anna wiped her eyes, shaking her head. How can we ask him to let go? Every time he hears a car, he thinks it's Michael. Every time I pick up a bag, he runs to the door. He's holding on with everything he has. As if to prove her point, Max lifted his head at the sound of footsteps outside. He scrambled to the window, ears sharp, tail flicking with hope, only to sink back down when it was just a mailman. The disappointment in his eyes cut Anna to the core. That night, Max had a dream. His paws twitched as he ran through imagined fields, his ears catching the distant call of Michael's voice. In the dream, Michael knelt down, arms open wide. Max bolted forward, leaping into his embrace. But just as he reached him, Michael vanished, leaving Max in a field of silence. He woke with a start, chest heaving, eyes wide with confusion. Anna, asleep on the couch, stirred when she heard him pacing. "Max," she mumbled. But Max didn't stop. He circled the door, pawed at it, pressed his nose to the crack, desperate to push through. It was as if something deep inside him told him Michael was in danger. Far away, Michael stirred in his hospital bed. He whispered hoarsely to the nurse at his side, Tell me about Max. Did he make it okay?" The nurse had no answers, but the desperation in Michael's voice was unmistakable. Even broken and battered, his thoughts belonged to the dog who had cried out when he left. Back home, word of Michael's condition spread through the department. Officers began visiting Anna, offering support. Some brought treats for Max. Others shared stories of missions he and Michael had completed. But every story, while meant to comfort, only deepened Max's longing. He would listen intently to the voices, cocking his head, eyes bright, as if waiting for the part where Michael would walk through the door. Then came the letter. Weeks later, Anna received word that Michael had survived surgery and was stable, but his recovery would be long. He might not return active duty at all. Relief flooded her, but when she read the words aloud, Max barked sharply, an excited, insistent sound. His ears stood tall, his body quivering. He didn't understand the full meaning, but he sensed it. Michael was alive. That night, for the first time in weeks, Max wagged his tail. He carried one of Michael's old boots from the corner of the room and lay with it between his paws. Anna watched, tears streaming, whispering, "Hold on, Max. He's fighting to come back to you." But as hope flickered, so did danger. News broke of escalating violence where Michael was stationed. Rumors spread of another attack, one that could claim even more lives. Anna's chest tightened as she read the headlines. Max seemed to feel it too. He grew restless, pacing the house, barking at shadows, as though some invisible thread connected him to Michael's struggle. One evening, Daniel came again, his face grave. "Anna," he said, "I need to prepare you. If Michael's injuries keep him overseas, or if the situation worsens, Max may never see him again." Anna shook her head fiercely. "No, you don't know Max. He believes. He feels it. And I believe, too. Michael will come home. He has to." At that very moment, Michael sat by his hospital window, staring at the desert horizon. He whispered the same words Anna had spoken. "I'll come home, Max. No matter what, I'll come home." Neither man nor dog could see the other. Neither knew how much longer the wait would be. But their bond, tested by distance, danger, and silence, wasn't broken yet. And soon, forces beyond their control would decide whether loyalty and love were enough to bring them back together, or tear them apart forever. Winter settled over Anna's small town, and with it came a sharpness in the air that seemed to mirror the tension growing in Max's world. Snow dusted the front porch where he still spent most mornings, his body rigid, eyes fixed on the road. He no longer cried out, but the silence of his waiting carried an even heavier weight. Neighbors often paused to watch him, whispering about the dog who waited day after day for the man who might never return. Inside the house, Anna tried to keep life moving forward. She hung Christmas lights, played soft carols, even wrapped gifts for her nieces and nephews. Yet every flicker of light reflected off Max's eyes, which never seemed to rest. It was as though he could sense the tension that filled the air with every new headline from overseas. Michael's recovery had been slow, but steady. Letters from a military hospital began to arrive more often, each one filled with determination. He wrote about physical therapy, about learning to walk without pain again, and about the other soldiers who leaned on him for encouragement. But every letter ended the same. "Tell Max I'm coming home. Tell him to wait for me." Anna read those words aloud each time, her voice thick with emotion. Max would lift his head, ears forward, and bark once, sharply, as if answering across the miles. Then he would go back to his vigil at the door. But just as hope seemed within reach, tragedy struck again. A convoy Michael had been scheduled to travel with was attacked on a narrow desert road. Though he had been pulled from the assignment last minute due to his injuries, many of his fellow officers didn't survive. When Anna heard the news, her knees gave way, and Max barked wildly, pacing the room, agitated by her grief. That night, Anna sat on the couch with Max pressed against her side, his warmth grounding her. "You would have known if it was him, wouldn't you?" she whispered. Max looked at her with eyes that seemed far too knowing. Somewhere deep inside, Anna believed it too. The bond between Michael and Max wasn't ordinary. It was unbreakable. Still, the strain was wearing on Max. His once shining coat dulled. His muscles began to soften and his energy drained. Anna tried everything. Long walks, new toys, even playdates with neighbors' dogs. But nothing could replace Michael. Daniel noticed a decline during one of his visits. "He's fading, Anna," Daniel said solemnly, scratching Max's ears. "He needs Michael, or at the very least, he needs to believe Michael is still out there fighting for him." Anna swallowed hard. But what if Michael doesn't make it home? What happens then? Daniel's silence was answer enough. Across the ocean, Michael fought his own battle. Nightmares plagued him. Dreams of Max crying at the door, of reaching for him but never closing the distance. In his waking hours, he poured his energy into therapy, forcing his body to heal faster than the doctors expected. The thought of Max waiting became his driving force. Every step he took on the treadmill, every stretch of his scarred muscles, was powered by the memory of his dog's eyes the morning he left. But the external conflict escalated beyond Michael's personal fight. Violence in the region intensified, and military officials began to question whether he could safely return home soon. Rumors swirled his deployment might extend indefinitely in a non-combat role. When Michael heard, rage surged through him. He slammed his fist against the hospital bed rail. "No," he growled. I promise him I'd come back." Meanwhile, Anna faced a growing problem at home. Max's behavior had become unpredictable. One evening, during a heavy snowfall, she opened the door to bring in firewood. Max bolted past her, racing into the street, barking wildly. His paws tore through the snow, his nose to the ground as though following a trail only he could smell. "Max!" Anna screamed, chasing after him. He sprinted for blocks, ignoring her calls, until finally he stopped at the edge of town near the train tracks. He stood there, chest heaving, staring into the distance as if expecting Michael to step off the next train. Anna caught up, panting, tears freezing on her cheeks. She wrapped her arms around his neck. "He's not here, Max. Please come home." She dragged him back, her heart breaking at the realization. Max wasn't just waiting anymore. He was searching, and that desperate search could put him in danger. Days later, Anna received another letter from Michael. His handwriting was shaky, but his words burned with determination. "They're telling me to stay. They're saying it's safer. But Max doesn't need safe. He needs me, and I'll find a way, Anna. No matter what it takes, I'll come home to him." Anna pressed the letter to her chest, whispering, "Hurry, Michael. He can't wait forever." Max pressed against her leg, eyes fixed on the door as though he understood every word. But the storm was far from over. In the weeks that followed, Max grew restless, his cries returning with a haunting frequency. Anna feared his spirit was breaking. At the same time, Michael's unit faced new restrictions, making his promise to return even more uncertain. Their bond, stretched across oceans, was being tested to its breaking point. And soon one event, unexpected and devastating, would decide whether love and loyalty could truly conquer distance, war, and time itself. The snow had melted, giving way to early spring. Yet for Max, the seasons made no difference. He still waited at the door, his eyes fixed on the road, his ears tuned for a sound that never came. Anna worried that his spirit would not survive another disappointment. His once proud stance had weakened, his body thinner, his eyes dimmer. Still, he refused to give up. One quiet afternoon, Anna sat at the kitchen table with Daniel, reading Michael's latest letter. It was shorter than usual, hurried, but filled with urgency. "I've been cleared for travel. Against orders, I found a way. Don't tell anyone. Just be ready. Soon." Anna's hands trembled. "He's coming home," she whispered. But her joy was tangled with fear. If Michael was defying orders to return, the risk was immense. Still, she knew nothing could stop him. Not after months of separation. Not after the cries that had haunted them both. Max, lying at her feet, stirred suddenly. His head snapped up, ears sharp, nose twitching. He bolted to the door, tail rigid, body quivering. Anna rose quickly, heart pounding. "No, Max, not yet." But Max didn't move. He stayed at the door, whining low, as if he felt something in the air. Hours later, as dusk settled, headlights cut through the fading light. A car pulled into the driveway. Max's entire body stiffened, then exploded with energy. He barked wildly, tail whipping, paws scratching at the door. Anna's eyes filled with tears as she stumbled toward the handle. "It's him," she whispered. "It has to be him." The door swung open, and there he was. Michael stood on the porch, thinner, pale from recovery, a cane in his hand. But his eyes, those eyes, were alive. Max let out a cry, the same haunting sound from months ago. But this time it was not sorrow. It was pure, unrestrained joy. He launched forward, nearly knocking Michael off his feet. Michael dropped the cane and fell to his knees, arms open as Max pressed against him, whining, licking, crying. Tears streamed down Michael's face as he buried his hands in the thick fur. "I told you I'd come back," he choked out. "I told you." Anna stood frozen in the doorway, her hands over her mouth, watching the reunion that seemed to stop time itself. Daniel, who had arrived to check on them, whispered, "I've seen soldiers reunited with their families, but I've never seen anything like this." For long minutes, Michael and Max clung to each other, man and dog refusing to let go. The months of pain, fear, and longing dissolved in that embrace. The bond that had been tested by distance, and danger was unbreakable. But Michael's return was not without consequence. He confessed to Anna that he had defied strict orders to come back. "I couldn't stay," he said firmly. "They don't understand. He's not just a dog. He's my partner. My family." Anna hugged her brother tightly. "Then you'll build a new life here. Both of you. Together." In the weeks that followed, Michael and Max began to heal side by side. Physical therapy sessions were tough, but Max was always there, walking beside Michael, matching his steps. When Michael faltered, Max steadied him. When Michael's pain grew unbearable, Max pressed close, grounding him. At the precinct, officers welcomed Michael back, but it was Max who stole the show. Stories of his loyalty had spread, and many came just to see the dog who had cried for his master and waited faithfully for his return. Max stood tall again, his coat shining, his spirit renewed. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Michael sat on the porch with Max's head resting on his knee. "You saved me," he said softly. "You kept me fighting. Every step I took, every breath I forced out, it was because I knew you were waiting." Max closed his eyes, tail thumping gently against the wood. He didn't need words to understand. He had felt it all along. Anna brought out 2 mugs of coffee and set them beside her brother. She looked at Max and smiled. "He never gave up on you. Not for a second." Michael nodded, emotion tightening his throat. "And I'll never leave him again. Not as long as I live. The night air was calm, filled only with the sounds of crickets and the steady breathing of the German shepherd who had proven what loyalty truly meant. Michael stared at the horizon, one hand resting on Max's back, and whispered, "No distance, no war, no pain could break us. You're my family, Max. My forever." Max lifted his head, eyes glowing the fading light, and let out one final sound, a soft, contented sigh. Not a cry of sorrow, not a bark of alert, just peace. And for the first time since the Suitcase closed, both man and dog knew their journey together was far from over. It was only beginning, forged stronger than ever by love, sacrifice, and unshakable loyalty.